Hello everyone, sorry about the lighting, it's a bit shit, so I'm a bit grainy, but hey, might help with the wrinkles. Anyway, on Saturday the 12th of November, I went to London with my other half and my relatives, my mum and my auntie. And due to the fact that there was some work being done on the line, we went from a different station to normal. So my father drove us to Biggleswade and we got on there. Well, we were about 25 minutes early. So we sat in the waiting room because it was not cold, but it was, if you know what I mean, because of the way that the station's set out, the wind kind of... So anyway, we're sitting there and, chatting about just random stuff. And then, of course, obviously, the drama comes up. And I don't know how it come up, but it come up. And I think how it come up was something along the lines of, I think my auntie said, "Oh, did you know that Da's had another stroke?" And I've gone, "Oh, really? He's had 3 in the last year or so." And I've gone, "Oh," and her son has had one. And then I don't know who said it. I don't think it was me, because I've not really looked into this, so I don't really know the full ins and outs. I know there's issues, or there's supposedly issues that are heart-related with the younger generation. Microcardia or whatever it is, but that's it really. Well, I think they said, and it wasn't me, there's too many strokes, there's too many... and they're starting to think that whether that is the cause, They both said they don't think they're going to take any more. It's like my auntie said, she goes, "Oh, I'm glad I took the first couple." She said to sort of, flatten the curve, because that's, most people would think that, I'm not gonna, question her over that. That's up to her what she does, too. I understand that people might have 1 and then a booster because they're thinking, but 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're like, there's something not quite right, and I'm like, oh, and I'm not saying my aunt is brainwashed, and nor is my mum. My mum's a little bit more activistic than my auntie, I suppose, but they both would question certain things. There's a point where they'd go, actually, what? I think my mum would be more militant than my auntie, but my dad was more of the one who feared it because of their age. And obviously, like when my missus, she took it because she's had cancer, so she her mum's really anti-vaccine, her mum is. In the sense of flu, the normal seasonal one that went on. She was really anti it before any of this drama happened. And she works for the NHS, and she just was like, "Oh, don't bother with the flu vaccine, there's no point. It's always the wrong flu anyway." And I'm like, "That's okay, I'll take my chances with the flu, actually." But each their own. But I swear, I've said before, like, every time people go for vaccines, all of a sudden everyone gets sick round everywhere. And they go, "Oh no, vaccine can't leak." Well, maybe it can't leak, but if someone else's immune system's fighting part of a disease and having a reaction to it, maybe that disease then mutates and leaves them and infects other people with a partial disease. That's why there's some really random, weird colds around every now and then. We don't actually really know. It's all conjecture. But common sense says to me that something... I'm still on the fucking belief, right, and... fat burning, carbohydrate burning. When we run out of carbohydrates, literally we run out. If we didn't have a backup system in order to help us continue, we'd die, right? Because the battery, when your mobile phone goes dead and it turns off, that's it, it's dead. Your brain would not work again. So there has to be a backup system, and that's why we go into ketosis and have fat burning, and that's why you can survive on water for 2 weeks with no food, because your body has fat on it and it learns to eat the fat and the muscles in order to live. It's like when you go out into a cold place and you get hypothermia because everything on the outside shuts down and your body puts it all in the middle to keep it warm, to sustain the actual really important part of staying alive, like your brain, your organs and all them other things, right? So when we go into summer, we know that vitamin D plays a huge role in immune response and in health. So, and we know that people of colour will struggle more in the northern hemispheres than they would do if they lived on the equator, because their skin's designed to not absorb as much as us who are white, because we live in different regions of the world. It's just that now everything's so connected, we can all travel everywhere. If you ask any of the black or the Asian community, they will tell you that there's a high consistency of vitamin D deficiency, especially in the northern hemispheres. It's a known thing, right? And obviously we all wear suntan lotion. Well, unless your shadow is taller than you, you're not making vitamin D. Okay? Now, if you actually look at that, it's probably about 2 to 3 hours in the height of the summer a day. So, and you get it through an element of, fish, but it's so minute in comparison to what you actually need. Well, I've taken vitamin D in vitamin form for a while, but high end, they recommend something like 400 IU. I take 10,000 IU. In the winter, I take 4,000 in the summer. When it's actually the summer and I can make vitamin D, I don't take it at all. And I also shot lemon, ginger, and an apple juice, or a rum or a whiskey or something daily in the times of the year where you can get a cold. I have not had a cold yet. It's November. I've had something try it on. I had a headache for a couple of days. Something's tried it on. I just took a couple of paracetamols, which I hardly ever take. I probably take about 4 paracetamols a year. Maybe 1 Nurofen if something really aches for a bit. But I have ginger, literally crushed ginger, lemon, and maybe rum or apple juice or whiskey, depending on if something's attacking you or not, daily. And I have vitamin B12 with iron, because I am anemic anyway before I was vegan, and my B12 I get from Marmite and other sources anyway, but I take that because B12 needs to go in with iron, so I take a substitute. Anemia is in my family, so I just take that as a backup. And I take vitamin D, and I occasionally take a vitamin K2, but not very often, because I don't really understand K2 that well to know that I can't remember if it thins your blood or thickens your blood, but I think I just don't really want to risk overdosing on that. I don't know anything about it, where I do with vitamin D in comparison, because I've read shit. So, I'm pretty sure that we switch from from summer burning to winter burning, because you go to a hot country, you're out in the heat, you come back to a cold country and you usually get a cold. If you're in an area where there's a draft coming in, or you're in and out of the cold, it's like your body doesn't know how to regulate its temperature, and it kind of almost catches a cold. It's like almost a side effect. It's not a disease, it's a side effect of switching from different operating parts of the system that allow the body to function within different environments, in my opinion. There's something in that, because the common cold can't be cured. There's something about the common cold that's different. It's like a rotary virus, isn't it? It's different to a coronavirus, which is a respiratory top-end virus, right? I'm talking... There's something in it, and unfortunately the symptoms for a common cold are similar to those of the flu and the drama's symptoms, so it's very, very difficult to see what's what. And because we're using a test, the PCR test, that, okay, yes, you can maybe program it to look at different sequences within the antigens, but the body has an antigen response when it's under attack, and I don't know that there's many different types of antigens. If you're looking at saliva is not very good to test from. It's not very accurate in comparison to blood or urine or something that's come from inside of the body in such a way that it's not a fluid that's very easy to test from my experience. So a PCR test could in effect pick up any underlying health condition that is responding with antigens in similar sequences or similar areas as to a corona type virus response. So you could therefore pick up a positive result from a PCR test, or lateral flow test, should I say, lateral flow test in comparison to PCR. PCR can be like, zoomed in on and multiplied and whatever else, and it's a little bit more accurate than a lateral flow. But the only real way to know if you've got COVID is by blood. Obviously, if you've got symptoms and you're displaying symptoms of it and you've got a lateral flow that's positive, you might have COVID. But I can't say, obviously, you'll know. You'll be sick. If you're sick. If you're sick, and it's positive, and you've got COVID, haven't you? Or what we know as what COVID is. It's very controversial for me to talk about, because people seem to think that I don't think it exists, or that people don't die from it, people don't suffer from it. Of course they do. So my screensaver's just come on. Just going to unlock it as my face will go really black. So, you know, when I talk about the difference between lateral flow and PCR, lateral flow can give up a false positive to anything. So if you're not displaying some form of sickness, then you might not have it. If you are, then you probably have. Okay, just put it out there. I'm not saying no one's sick here. I'm not saying no one's suffered. Jesus, just before that's taken in the wrong light, because it has been in the past. So it's really, really difficult because, you know, I'm not being big-headed or whatever else here. You know, I think I've had it. I think I had this virus back in 2019, the back end of it. I remember being sick. It was almost like a sinusitis thing. My parents remember bringing me some stuff round, and it cleared it. And then my friend thought she had it, and then I didn't get it for about a year and a half. And then I lost my taste, so I must have had it. And it was about 2 or 3 days where I just had a headache and felt a bit ugh. But I just pushed through, stayed away from people. Here we are, a year and a half later. And this last week, everyone's been sick all over the place, you know. Last 2 or 3 weeks, excuse me. Well, actually longer than that, probably a month. But around me in the last few weeks, people have been quite ill. And I've had the occasional headache. I had to sort of like overdose myself on all the sort of holistic stuff I do, and thankfully, fingers crossed, nothing's got me. But yeah, I must be doing something right because I'm well. You know, it can't all be shit that I'm saying. Surely to God, you know. I don't know. People try and make you feel that you're stupid sometimes, and it's just. And that you're trying to patronise or undermine people or say people are less than or fucking stupid. I'm not saying that. I just wish people would fucking see and use a bit of critical thinking. You know, education is being able to read systematic instruction and follow their actions, but critical thinking involves wisdom. It involves stepping back from the situation and looking at the bigger picture. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't do that. And that's, I think, a lot of what the problem is in the world. And I'm going to leave it there anyway. Peace, love, and light. Stop.